Hey, this is Sandy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine. Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner.
That was pretty good, babe.
I can be you sometimes.
You can be better than me sometimes, babe.
You can be who you wanna be.
What was that?
You don't recognize that?
No.
Barbie. Barbie girl.
See, that's probably why I didn't recognize it. Barbie wasn't my forte as a child.
Okay, what are we talking about today, Randy?
Today we're talking about what every athletic trainer rolls their eyes to. Crazy mechanisms of injury.
Are we going back to this line again?
Yes?
All right, broken record, Randy.
Hey, I have not said the roll your eyes thing. That's new. That's new content.
Okay, that's new content. This is all new content, actually. Actually, yeah, these stories, some of them we've been sitting on for a while. These are like originally submitted before we started the show.
They were waiting for this show, this episode.
Actually, this first things athletes said is one that I've wanted to use. I wanted to wait for the perfect time to use it. But I was like, you know what? We can't sit on it too long. Why don't we start with that?
Go for it.
So this one's from Emily M. They wrote in, when I was a student, I was once helping out at a regional track meet, and this kid comes up to our tent asking to get taped. I say, sure. What do you need? Him. Oh, I just need a piece of tape around here. And he points to his upper shin. Me, the AT, confused. Okay, so what is this for? Him, clearly proud of himself, responds, oh, well, it's called the placebo effect. I read about it on the internet.
That describes track so well.
I thought you'd enjoy this one.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
At least he knows. Like, hey, he knows, like, it's just, I think it makes me feel better.
I don't think he understands the placebo effect.
No, not at all. But if it works for him...
Hey, those are my favorite treatments. You know, whatever works for you. You know, the athletes who are all up in their head?
Well, it goes back to what Scott said. You know, at first he was going to say ultrasound because all about the placebo.
I don't know about that. I have to clinically, I feel like I found it to work, but I have not delved into the research about that.
And we will talk about that one day. Don't know when.
One day.
But we will. I do like ultrasound, though. I'm a fan. Okay, we're getting off the rails here.
Let's get into our stories. Crazy MOIs. Let's go.
All right, first one's by Anna K. I had a collegiate track and field athlete who rushed into the ATR dead serious and told us that she was eating a chicken nugget and her leg started hurting. And then she asked us if her eating the chicken nugget caused her leg pain. My coworkers and I could not keep a straight face as we tried to convince her otherwise. So I really am getting the impression that this is going to be a lot of track and field because that is to a T what I've had to deal with for years.
You know what? Actually, putting together this episode, I don't know what primary it is, but the fact that we've already had 2 track and field, I think there's at least one more. And I'm sure you have some.
Oh, there's got to be. I know, I'm going to have to think of some off the top of my head, but yes, this episode is for this.
Yeah. How do you explain to an athlete that the chicken nugget did not cause their leg pain?
Well, especially when they're already thinking that it did.
Placebo.
Super placebo.
All right, this next one's from Kevin J. He emailed us and said, was Midnight Madness during undergrad, and during the dunk contest portion, an athlete dunked and got the tip of his thumb wedged into that W thing that the net attaches to. He tried to pull himself up to relieve the pressure, but his hand slipped and hit the ground hard. He pops up right away, holding his hand, and sprints over to me. Joycey, my thumb! I say, okay, what happened? He then holds his hand up, and the top of his thumb is gone, and now squirting blood. I apply pressure and start packaging the athlete so he can get to the ER. I said to the team manager, someone needs to get the rest of his thumb. As I'm stabilizing and preparing the kid, I hear people laughing. I look over, and there are 3 players jumping up trying to swat the thumb out of the net because it's stuck up there.
Yeah.
In my best coach/AT/dad voice, I say, "Someone get a ladder." We got it down and the thumb was reattached. Player was pumped that part of his rehab was Mario Kart. I went to college in the 90s. I'm old.
I'm surprised the rest of the athletes weren't grossed out that they were actually trying to swat the thumb down.
Yeah, that they didn't pass out from seeing it.
Yeah.
You've seen those videos where someone gets hurt and then the rest of the team is just like...
Oh, that just reminds me of the Kevin Ware injury a few years back.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
The bench did not look okay.
Oh, no. I mean, really, his thumb was literally taken off.
That's bad.
I would definitely categorize this as a crazy mechanism of injury. And it wasn't even during the game. It was
Midnight Madness.
Oh, man. I've had a kid get a thumb injury.
Oh, yes, you have.
Last season, football, our quarterback, he threw the ball. No one was near him. He just tripped over a rock, fell backwards, put his hand out to catch him. So he runs to me and he goes, Sandra, something doesn't look right. My thumb. And I was like, okay, let me see. So I'm holding his thumb and I'm just trying to palpate, trying to see, what is going on. And, well, first of all, I'm going to preface this by saying no pain, no swelling, no spasm, very, very odd presentation. And so I'm palpating and all of a sudden something in his thumb moves. And he's like, oh, what did you do? And I was like, oh, I just reduced your thumb. And then he's like, oh, cool. And he went to give me a thumbs up and then it displaces again. And then I was like, oh, that's odd. I've never had that happen. So then I go again and this time I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just a really clean fracture. So I go in and I'm palpating. I'm trying to get that base of the metacarpal. And it's really clean and not jagged or anything. So I'm like, this would be a really weird fracture. I don't know about this. And so I just reduce it again and it just pops right back out. And I'm like, what is this is near the end of the game, and I'm just I'm the only one on the sideline, only one actually for both teams. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is very odd. So then coach is like, hey, can you go back in? And I'm like, not wanting to, if it's a fracture.
No, his thumb keeps falling out.
Yeah, not wanting to, if he falls on it again, I don't want that thing to go through the skin. And plus, it's near the end of the game. So I'm like, there's literally no point. Just put in your backup. All he has to do is take the ball, right? So his mom comes down from the stands and they take him to go get x-rays. And we find out later that he, just from falling on his thumb, he tore all of the ligaments in his metacarpal phalangeal joint.
Wow, that's pretty bad. And
the surgeon said that she had only ever seen one of those, and it was from a car accident 10 years ago.
I don't know if that's like a badge of honor for the kid, or... I mean, it's pretty intense.
It was crazy. He was out for the rest of the season because he had to get pins in his thumb, and so his cast was like super huge because it had to hold the pin. It was crazy. I was not expecting that. He just fell. Like, no one, he wasn't getting sacked. Like, no one was running after him. No one was even on his side of the field. It was ridiculous. But man, I never thought about Mario Kart being part of rehab. That's legit.
That's where we're heading nowadays, is more virtual, like video games, virtual reality as rehab.
Hey,
they were ahead of their time.
When we play Mario, my thumb gets sore.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. My hand gets sore.
When we haven't played for a while?
Yeah, definitely. So this next one's by Alyssa F. I had an athlete limp their way into the athletic training room on Monday morning. When I asked what was wrong, she told me that she hurt both her ankles. And sure enough, one was a more severe sprain, but both. I asked her what happened. She told me with a straight face that she fell out of her high heels this weekend at the bar. It took all my willpower to not laugh.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, at least she was honest. I'd rather have that than the athlete who just tries to make up some weird story that doesn't make sense.
Oh, that happens all the time. You're like,
all the time.
Hey, what happened? How'd you get hurt? Oh, I did this. Are you sure? That doesn't really make sense. Yeah. This is exactly what happened. I don't know about that.
I like it when the athlete's social life dictates my treatment. Like, I've had athletes who are like, no, I don't want cups because they're going out on the weekend and they don't want the cup marks.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, well, I'll adjust.
I've never had that happen. And you know what? That's funny because I work with, a lot of my patient load is performing arts.
Yeah, that's true. I'm very surprised. I mean, again, coming from track, I've gotten used to that.
I do have to be careful around recitals and auditions and stuff.
Yeah.
I've actually had one like this. When I was a student, there was a tennis player who came in with a mysterious concussion. I don't know if you've heard this story.
It doesn't sound familiar yet.
So she came in with just saying that, her friend told her to come in. She had never been to the athletic training facility before, and she was saying that, her friend told her to come in because her friend was concerned that she had a head injury. And so I was like trying to ask her like what had happened, and she was kind of like evading the question and saying all this stuff about like, what she was feeling. So, okay, like let's go over your symptoms, normal concussion protocol. And I'm like, what, do you remember what happened? And she's like, no, I actually don't remember what happened. And I was like, oh, were there other people there that can tell you what happened? She's like, yeah. So I'm trying to piece it together, but I think what happened, because I guess it was a Friday night, it was a Thursday night, Thirsty Thursdays, and she went out with her friends. She was very drunk, obviously did not remember any of this. And she tripped over something at a house party and like hit her head on a countertop from what other people had told her. And she didn't remember any of it. But then now she's, I don't remember how many, like 1 or 2 days later, coming in like, oh, I don't know if this should be happening to me.
No, I would say not.
Yeah, the mysterious concussion. Okay, next one. You want to read it?
Yeah, so this is by Alyssa F. Different Alyssa F.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, right? I kept reading ahead. And
this one's Alyssa BF. I didn't realize I even put them back to back. How funny.
That's pretty funny.
Okay, go ahead.
So this one is not safe for work, so this is going to be good. I had a collegiate baseball player who showed up one morning in a hand cast. He proceeded to tell me that he broke his hand by slamming it in his car door. He said the seatbelt was hanging out of the door and that he went to throw it back in, while simultaneously shutting the door. Okay, sure. Then later during volleyball treatments, I mentioned to his girlfriend that I had seen him earlier. She turned bright red and her teammates started laughing. They told me the real story of how the two were having sex and he fell off the bed.
Oh my gosh. And he got a cast for that.
I can't. That's funny. That's fun. I mean, his story was very imaginative.
You're like, how hard did you close this door?
Or why? Why did you do that? Like,
he couldn't have just said like he fell. Like he just couldn't just like leave out the part that he didn't want to tell.
I could say I don't think I've ever had someone come in with a sex injury.
I love how her teammates started laughing. Like, that means the whole team knew.
So, yeah, I was going to say, someone had to have said something.
Aww.
Like, how does that conversation start? So, hey, guess what happened last night?
It probably did.
Well, I'm sure obviously they went to the doctor, so I'm sure there was some communication that happened.
Tell everyone but the AT.
Exactly.
Okay, next one. This one's anonymous. Men's hockey player comes in the office and says he has a problem. Proceeds to close the door and waddle into the room more. The story from him starts off as, so I was in the shower and washing up. I looked down and noticed something white moving around my junk. And then in parentheses says, he didn't say junk, but whatever. So I go into the kitchen to look for something to take care of that, and under the sink was a can of Raid. So I just sprayed it under there so I could kill them. So now AT chimes in with, what? He continues with, but all of a sudden it starts to burn. Well, duh.
Yeah.
And then this happened. He drops his pants, and there are blisters and sores all over his groin. I call our team doc to come in and figure this out. I ask him why the Raid, and the French-Canadian answers, it said it works in all cracks and crevices.
Not those ones.
Yeah, wrong crevices. Doc set him up with some cream for both problems, and within a week, he was back playing. No words.
The amount of odd problem solving that we're getting from these or something else.
I think, okay, we're totally ignoring the fact that he just comes in his office and drops his pants.
Yeah, that would irritate me. I'd be like, why are you doing this? Don't do this.
Hey, put those back on. You're like, listen, we'll send you to Team Doc.
Yeah, thank God for the doc at this point. Like, all right, cool, I don't have to deal with this.
So this next one's from Nicolette with another all-star audio, so you guys can hear her tell a story.
Nicolette MVP.
Okay, this is one of the weirdest injuries I've ever experienced, but, you know, what is athletic training if they're not weird? So during my clinical rotation, I was working basketball at a community college, and the opposing team's player went up for a rebound for a shot and came down, hyperextended his knee, which we clearly saw from the bench. Immediately dropped to the ground, grabbed his knee. He tried to continue to run on it, so he dropped to the ground, grabbed his knee, got up, shot up really fast. It was a very close game, so you know how competitive they can be. Shot up, and then just started limping and trying to, you know, run, but had like that awkward gait, and it was interesting. So his coach immediately pulled him off the next play. So I went over to go evaluate it, and I was a student at this time, so I had no history of the athlete, and so I'm going in blind, basically, because it was the opposing team's athlete. So, background information, this athlete had no history of knee injury, no concerning signs and symptoms, felt a pop, most of his pain was in the back of his knee. Upon evaluation, the athlete had all negative special tests except a positive varus stress test. Well, when I went to tell my supervising athletic trainer this, he shook his head and was like, no, I've never seen a positive LCL tear in 35 years I've worked here, especially one from a hyperextended knee. And I was like, okay, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's an LCL tear. He's like, are you sure it's not ACL? He hyperextended his knee. What's the MOI? And I was like, hyperextension. And as I confirmed, he walked over there to the opposite side of the court to evaluate the athlete himself. To his surprise as well, he also diagnosed a grade 2 LCL tear with no ACL tear, I should say. So we shared the information with the athletic trainer at the opposing school, and she also was doubtful considering the athlete hyperextended his knee and had no LCL and had an LCL tear. So she's like, I've never seen that. No, that's probably not what the diagnosis is. So she sent him in to their team physician, and when the athlete got imaging, the athletic trainer reported back to us that he indeed had a grade 2 LCL tear and no ACL tear. Not any part of the ACL was damaged. So I think for all the students out there, just be confident in your diagnosis, because if you use your skills and make logical decisions, just be confident, sell it, and practice, because when you get into the actual athletic training world and you're the only one there, you have to be the one to make that decision.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on.
Nicolette actually sent in this story before she knew we were doing a Crazy Mechanisms of Injury episode, so I'm glad that it fit in so well, because it really goes to show that we're not just talking about, like, weird things that our athletes do. I mean, Crazy Mechanisms of Injury also includes, like, this hyperextension that leads to an LCL tear.
Yeah, I've had a girl, she was going over the hurdles, and as she was coming down on her lead leg, so that'll be the leg that comes down, she hyperextended her knee, and it doesn't seem like too big of an issue. So we went over there, we evaluated, and she's writhing in pain. Like if I moved her knee like half a degree, she would scream in pain. So I couldn't even look at the knee. I'm looking at her knee like, am I missing something? Is it dislocated and I'm just not feeling it? Nope, everything was there. Everything was in place. And we had to roll EMS because she would not calm down. We iced it. We tried everything to get her pain down, to look at it. Nothing was helping. So we had to go to the ER. ER did an MRI. It turned out just an ACL tear. Like all that hoopla. And it just ended up being an ACL tear, which like, it's ironic because like, some people barely know they did it. They don't feel anything. They're just like, oh, I think I just felt a pop. So...
Well, just an ACL tear is kind of a...
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But compared to what we were thinking it might have been...
That's true, like dislocated knee or something?
Seriously. Alright, so this next one's by Maddy S.
This was actually a comment on one of our episode threads in our Facebook group.
And she started off with some very kind words, and we're very thankful for them.
Yeah, Maddy, second MVP.
Ooh. Sandra... You and Randy have done such a good job with the podcast. I love how you make it informational and conversational. And I'm all about the practical applications. So is Sandra.
Yep. That's why we do it.
Again, thank you, Maddy, for the kind words. We do appreciate it. After listening to this podcast, I was reminded of an unfortunate injury story from one of my soccer athletes. Last spring, she had an Achilles tendon rupture. She was almost done with rehab and getting ready to do return to play activities. She was walking out of a room when a door swung shut, hit her in the exact spot her Achilles tendon was repaired, and it re-ruptured. She is able to laugh about it now, but I can't imagine the bad luck. That's so depressing. Like that's... Oh, I feel for that athlete.
Yeah, getting ready to return to play
and just a door.
Have to start. Yeah, just a door. That really puts new meaning to don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Seriously, poor thing. I'm sure, I'm glad she's able to laugh about it now, but I'm sure at that moment it was not.
Oh, that's when you have to bring out all your mental health techniques.
Absolutely.
That's heartache on everyone.
Oh, definitely.
Well, yeah, like you said, I'm glad she's able to laugh about it now. So let's move on to a brighter note. Actually, I don't know if it's a brighter note.
I guess it depends who you're talking to.
So Bethany B said, had another one this morning. Kid that I was checking on about his ankle said, oh, my ankle feels fine. And then he gives me a smile and said, but I lost a tooth. And he's a senior in high school, so...
Not expecting that population to have that problem.
Yeah. So I asked him, what'd you do? Thinking like maybe he fell or got hit or something. So the senior's response, I was eating pizza with a hard crust, and when I bit into it, I felt a pop. Then when I opened my mouth, my tooth was stuck fully in it, but I have to wait until next week to get it fixed. So then I was talking to her, and she told me that they couldn't put the tooth back in. She saw the root, and it was a blackened root, so they said that they're visiting the dentist to get fitted for an implant. Sadly, it happened at home, but no one called me to ask what they should do, which sucks because they probably could have saved that tooth.
Oh, absolutely.
The kid seems fine, and all of his other teeth are solid and healthy. It seems like a freak accident, since he always wears a mouthguard and takes care of himself. He's in high hopes that he won't look too silly in his senior portrait tomorrow.
Oh, no.
What timing.
So sad.
These kids are going to keep me on my toes for sure. Oh my gosh. When she messaged me this, I was like, I need this for our crazy mechanisms of injury episode.
That poor child.
I know. Like, is this why you don't eat your pizza crust, Randy?
Okay, that's a different thing, okay? I just never did as a kid, and I just keep it going now. Plus, I give you the crust. You like that.
I do. You'd think...
No judgments, by the way, that I don't eat pizza crust. I eat part of the pizza crust.
No, you don't.
Sometimes.
What are you talking about?
I'm very picky on which pizza. It has to be really soft pizza crust.
So he doesn't lose a tooth.
Well, now I have this story to cite as a precaution.
You'd think this would be like a hockey injury or something. But no, just pizza.
It's a pizza injury.
It's a pizza injury. That's what we should name this episode. Pizza injuries.
Mechanism of injury. Pizza.
Okay, so Jen, third MVP. Maybe I shouldn't give people numbers. You get... That's not like
See,
third
that's
place.
why I just say it
That's
over
not like,
and over to the same people.
That's not like third place. That's like MVP. Like 3 letters.
Okay.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, who is it? Andy Pollan would say, I'm growing lobsters out of my head.
That's right.
Out my ears. Is
I
that what he
love that.
said?
Yeah, that is what he says.
So Jen, MVP, says another hockey... Oh, here's a hockey story.
Finally got there.
It's not about a tooth, though. Talking outside the locker room with my coach, and one of the players comes out holding the back of his head, which can never be good.
Oh, always a bad start.
He takes his hand away, and it's covered in blood, and there's definitely a lack there. I said, the game hasn't even started. How did this happen? Well, we were getting pumped, and Slipknot came on. He'd give himself a laceration that needed stitches by head-banging to Slipknot, and he cracked his head on a sweater hook in his cubby.
That's so bad. Why?
When you, like, before the game, when you're getting pumped up?
I mean, granted, it's been a while since I worked a team sport, so...
That's true.
Our pumped up is just when we get to the meet at, like, 8 a.m., and we're going to be there till 5 p.m.
I've never had a pregame pump-up injury, I don't think.
Yeah, I can't think of anything when I was a student. Nothing comes to mind.
Well, here, this will be our story for all pregame pump-up injuries.
I'll make sure I tell the kiddos, hey, be careful when you're dancing.
Hey, watch out for those sweater hooks. Here's another one from Jen. Hey, here's it. You can read this one. It's about your track kids.
All right. So, Jen K says, cross country is out on the track doing straights and curves as their workout. I'm called out to the track because someone is hurt. I go out there and there's an athlete sitting on one of the benches that are on the track. A word about our track. It surrounds the soccer field and the benches for the teams are always on one of the straightaways. They're big. They're metal. They're 12 feet long. There's about 20 feet between them. Is this the safest thing? Probably not. But I've battled that for years and no one will move them.
Hey, that's part of our job, injury prevention.
Exactly. You have to survey the playing environment. So this kid is sitting on the bench holding his leg. He tells me that he ran into the bench. He has a cut. Is it deep? Sorta. Does it need stitches? Maybe. What I couldn't understand was the level of this kid's pain. He was off the charts in pain. I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I thought, the kid was kind of being a baby because he'd never been hurt before. I ended up sending him to the emergency department.
Sounds exactly like your...
Like my story. He comes in the next day in a cast with a picture of the x-ray. He had a huge crush fracture in his tibia. He was out of sport for 6 months.
Oh my god.
I asked him how he couldn't possibly have seen the bench. Come to find out he ran into the second bench. So he ran past the first bench and hit the second. His explanation? I was in the zone, man. That explains track.
Yeah.
All these track injuries are exact. I can just picture them coming from my kids because it happens just like that.
Oh my gosh, I know. These are your kids, Randy.
They are. This is like, this story may not be obviously the same as what I'm thinking, but I had a cross-country kid, a senior, last cross-country season. We're going to NCAA regionals. This is our last meet of the year. Crashes his longboard and gets a concussion the week before we leave.
Hey, he was probably in the zone.
He was probably in the zone. It wasn't too bad, and it worked out to where he was able to get cleared for that meet. But nothing like making it a little more stressful.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we should do a track episode.
I think we have literally enough stories to make a full episode.
I think we could.
I think, I want to do a track episode, but I also want to do a hockey episode because neither of us have worked hockey.
And we have gotten quite a few stories about hockey.
Well, both Jen and Kevin have sent us a few stories about hockey previously, and I know that they have a ton more.
I bet.
So I'm sure we could do a full episode on that.
But speaking of future episodes, what's our next episode?
Our next episode's hamstring, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, we need to start paying attention to our calendar more because we accidentally just recorded 2 episodes that were not supposed to be for this week, which, at least we already have them done.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that makes your life a little easier.
It definitely will, but that means last minute we had to come back in here.
Yes, we did. That's true.
We went back to Scott's episode and it was like, next episode's crazy mechanisms of injury. And I was like, oh, poop.
We didn't do that one.
Not what we recorded. So if you guys are new, we do every other episode stories or education. So this episode was a story episode. So next episode's going to be education, which is hamstring, like we said. And then other upcoming stories are going to be injured on the job, working with pregnant athletes, and hydration, cryotherapy, anything. So we're talking like cold allergies. We have a few on that, or like we have some on ice bath shenanigans and
I like how you have shenanigans in there.
Yeah. So really anything hydration or cryotherapy themed. This one's going to be really broad. So whatever you guys want to send, if you do have a story on any topic, you can send them over to atcorenerds@gmail.com. Yeah, super nerdy. And then if you want to join our Facebook group, you can head over to facebook.com/group/atcornerpodcast. There's only one membership question to get in, and that's, where did you hear about our podcast? And then once you'll automatically be approved, and then you can go comment on episode threads. You can post like things you want to ask the group, network with other listeners of the show. It's just like a AT Corner community.
Yeah, build the community.
Yeah, super, super exciting. We're loving where it's going. So, have anything else to say, Randy?
Nope, that's perfect. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.